or to stay on that court. And Trey White obviously did that and came out and had a magnificent game, and really a game that gets you back in that thought of, as we just talked yesterday, there's a worry there with Trey White that if you're going to get to a certain level, I think you've got to have everybody playing a certain way. And the way Trey, I don't know that I expect this out of Trey every night, there's no doubt. But for Illinois to be as good as they can, they need Trey to play similar to this and to do things that he was doing last night. So kudos to Trey, number one, for doing what he did. Wisconsin missed a couple free throws. They even got nuggets out of Wisconsin, I think. So that alone is maybe the story of the day.
Leading the country in free throw shooting, but missed some. Yep.
Probably should have started with the Nuggets there. That's my fault. And then Kasparas, I mean, I don't know what else to say about him. I mean, thank God Lon didn't think he was a first-round draft pick, because all it's done is it's just lit a fire under him. And look, I'm here for that. I am here to walk off that plank on the pirate ship, to take one for the team, to say, hey, I'm here to rip on Illinois guys and watch them go out and absolutely prove me wrong, because I know they follow me on Twitter. I know they listen to the show. I'm sure Yakachonis right now is taping the show so that he can, although you don't have to tape it anymore, right? You just podcast it. I'm kidding about that, but it's unbelievable how good that guy is. You're not seeing him for 2 years. I don't know about Will Riley. Maybe I'm still holding out on that one, that you do get to see him for 2 years, but I think Kasparas could go right now and be a top 5 pick in the NBA if they stop the season now. He's unbelievable. Derek, I haven't seen him in person. I want to fire it back at you just this one time. It's one thing to watch him on TV, and I've done both at a close range, right? I used to have a press pass. I used to sit right on that court and watch some of these guys that were so good at what they did. What is that like to watch him in person and from not far away do his magic? Because he is amazing.
Here recently, it seems like you're watching this is going to be high praise. You're watching like a younger version of Luka. I mean, you're just not saying he's going to be that just guy in the NBA, but it's a stylistic European-type game, the step-back threes, you get the switch on a big man, you make him look silly, and the game comes easy for him. He can, for the most part, get where he wants to go off the dribble. Yes, we'll still have a silly turnover here and there, and you'll live with that, obviously, but the shot-making's been ridiculous. I mean, he's made some tough shots. He's gotten fouled on some threes because you got to close out that hard on him when he's made, 10 of 18 three-pointers over the last 2 games.
A lot of step-backs, too, right?
A lot of step-backs. And he makes other guys better because of the attention that he draws, the vision that he has. And then really just to see Kylan and him play off of each other has been really, really exciting. But to appreciate the consistency against high-major competition, Illinois has played 4 high-major opponents. 3 of them have been ranked. And through those games, I tweeted it out late last night. Lon was probably already in bed.
Oh, of course.
KJ has averaged 20.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists.
Oh, my goodness.
Shooting 55% from the field, 48% from 3 during all those games. Sam Vecini, for The Athletic, who does the mock drafts, the NBA analysis for them, he put him at number 6 on his mock draft going into the year and tweeted here last night or this morning, I think it was early this morning, that he doesn't feel like he put him high enough. That he views him as of right now as a bona fide top 5 caliber of draft pick. And I was, before the show, looking this up. He would join a very short list of Illini who have been in that range. It's Darren Williams and Kendall Gill, and that's it in program history.
Wow.
So the season's not over. Still a lot of basketball to be played. But to see him click into place like this, I mean, I think back to Ayo Dosunmu coming in for as highly touted as he was. And look, I love Ayo. Ayo had a great career at Illinois, but some early struggles. Maui in his freshman year, bragging rights, which I know hasn't happened for KJ yet, but that was a real dud for him. Ended up having a really good season, but rode some roller coaster and had some duds of performances. KJ, I'm not saying is going to be shielded from that and isn't going to have some of those of his own, but right now it is making you ask that question, right? It's making you wonder because that's a top 20 team in Wisconsin, and you go out and have that type of a game. Showed up against Arkansas, did what he did. Arkansas beats Michigan last night. That looks like a decent win for Illinois. And then even in the Bama game, played well, especially in that first half.
I just don't see him having a bad game. I just continue to see him doing things like he does here. I'll ask you this, Pipes. What would be a bad game for him? What would constitute a bad game? It would be more turnovers than assists.
Yep.
And even that doesn't scare me with the way he plays. If he, for instance, had 6 assists, 7 turnovers, that's a lot of turnovers, granted. That would worry you a little bit, but still I'd be like, he did have 6 assists. He's only -1 in that spot. I guess it's mainly missing shots. If he came out and just had a dud shooting night, let's say. But the fact that he rebounded, we talked about Ben yesterday, and the idea, and I heard, and you guys kind of answered that with talking about Ty Rodgers after I had left, and you mentioned that about Ben as well, and the idea that if Ben is not going to shoot well, he's got to do a little something, right, for you out on the court. I mean, Casper is
highest graded defender 6 of the last 7 games.
I'm waiting to get to that. I can't wait to get to that one. But I'm just like, you look at Kaspersky and you're like, oh, man, he's 8 for 15, 4 for 8. Oh, and he had 5 assists. And you just kind of stop. And then you're like, oh, wait, he had 6 rebounds, which he does every night. And I know, look, I'm not amazed that he rebounds, but the fact that he does everything, I don't know, Pipes. I don't see him having a horrible game ever. I think he's always going to produce because he produces in all those key charts. I think it would just be missing shots at a high level one day.
I think so. It would be, and probably the prime candidate to do it would be Tennessee's defense.
Yeah.
And now the way that he's rolling here, I love the momentum carrying over and him having a really good game. And still, like you said, that there is that question, like who can throw him off when he's playing like this at this level? I think top-notch athleticism, getting into him and making him uncomfortable, and maybe he turns it over. Like you said, 6, 7 would be a lot, but his usage is pretty high, so it could be something that would happen. And then if some of those step back shots are ill-advised, they're contested and he's missing them. But yeah, that's what it would ultimately look like. And look, it's you play 31 games in the regular season,
you're
bound to have a game where it's not going for you. But certainly
he played 37 minutes last night as well.
Yep.
He just doesn't come off the court.
I know.
And you do worry a little bit about all these guys, let alone the freshman wall or whatever they call it, that all of a sudden, you've played a lot of games. But this kid, how many games did he play overseas constantly?
A lot.
More than what he's going to play this year for Illinois. In a stretch, right? I'm sure he was playing 30-some games in a stretch, and he's done that before, so it's not like this is new to him. I can't imagine. I don't understand the international, the way it works, of course, so I'm not sure.
It's a lot more like a professional structure. You're playing for Barcelona, so you're playing a ton of games, so that wouldn't be entirely new to him. I know that Brad even said when he came back from the FIBA Euros in August, they made sure to really dial things down for him in the early part of the fall to let his body recover, because it's somebody that played the Spain finals in May, then went to Berlin to play in an Adidas event, and then out to, was it Lithuania?
Wow.
Or was it? No, it was Finland, I think, to play, one of those two, to play in the Euro out there in early August. So he played deep through the summer, a lot of games. And so that's something that he's grown accustomed to. Not to say that there won't be some wear and tear, won't be, deeper into the season. You wonder about usage rate and minutes and all of that. But, yeah, at this point, he's not showing any signs of slowing down early on in this season.
He just looks like a gym rat, right? He looks like the kid that probably wants to get in there last night after the game and shoot. It's true. I don't know. I could just continue to just praise him. And the one thing that we probably caution, Rich Herron said it best. I've said it 100 times. Rich Herron's favorite quote was, you can't get too high, you can't get too low, right? So yesterday, and I am the biggest at fault for this, but yesterday we're just going on and on about Ben Hamrickhouse and this and that, and we need to see more Merez. And then Merez just, he has a game where he only plays 13 minutes, doesn't really do anything. Granted, 4 rebounds in 13 minutes, which is a great rate, but then all of a sudden Trey White does his thing. I think I need to caution myself about just relax and let this thing roll, because it's such a weird dynamic of 10 guys coming together to play. And I'm talking Jake Davis is even still getting 4 or 5 minutes a game, had a nice assist last night in that game. But it's one of those situations where you just almost have to, like, I could say something today on Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right? I could say something Wednesday, and by Saturday, Illinois will absolutely make that look like a joke with what I just said. And Trey White was the guy that I was kind of saying, what are we going to do with Trey? We got to see more out of him. And then he goes out and he's maybe player of the game when your guy KJ is sitting there earning All-American accolades.
Yeah, you love that. That's where we've discussed recently, maybe this team isn't as deep as we thought in terms of you're digging into your bench and you're consistently playing 8 guys, maybe even 9 on a given night, but it still has an ability to have different players step up on different occasions, and for Trey to really be a non-factor, especially second half and on at Northwestern. And like you said, I mean, there are different ways to react where things don't go your way at Northwestern. You can pack up your apartment and leave and go home, Sky Clark, or you can get in the film room and have a really enthused reaction and get on the court and have what Brad said is the best practice of anybody that was out there on Sunday and then going into this game. So I like that out of Trey. You saw the energy level that is kind of needed to match a Ty Rodgers type of impact, and then to really amplify what he can do, because it is offensive rebounding. It is kind of being all over the court. One of the plays that I loved the most of last night is he saves the ball out of bounds and throws it to Will Riley for a layup.
That's awesome.
For a second chance opportunity. And Illinois dominated Wisconsin on the offensive glass, especially in that first half. And I think he knocked down a couple of threes. He shows he can do that. And then later in the game, where I think closing time still gets a little tense for Illinois, and we're trying to figure that thing out with this team. But they are very heavily reliant on the 3, but he drove to the rim and got fouled a couple of times. He showed the slashing ability to put some pressure. And look, when respect to him, or halfway respect to him, when Carter Gilmore's your matchup,
right?
You should attack him.
Correct.
You should go downhill, because they can scheme. All right, Blackwell's going to be on this, and Tanjay's going to do this. When you got Carter Blackwell, and you're a deeper team, and you got talent across the board, that allows you then to say, okay, Trey, you should be aggressive here and go to the basket. And he did that and made free throws, made some clutch ones, and love to see that out. I mean, it's a guy that, as of last night, that was his 64th career start on a high major basketball team. That's a lot of experience at this level, and last night he looked like it.
It's crazy to look at the minutes and how it fluctuates each game a little bit, right? And a lot of times it fluctuates between Will Riley and Trey White. And last night it was Trey's hand. And I guess if you continue to get that, where you're always getting KJ doing his thing, then if you always get that out of KJ and Kylan Boswell, then if one of those other guys just has a night, and that's kind of what you're seeing. In last year's team, you would have that a little bit where you knew Terrence and Damask were always going to get theirs. Now, is it Hawkins' turn to have his night? Is it whoever? Go down the list. Is Dane going to have his night? And for Illinois to be able to do that, when you know what you're getting out of KJ and Kylan, and here I don't even throw Tommy in there, and he goes 9 and 11. It's crazy. And he had a chance there to double-double, because he had 9 with, I think, about 8 minutes left in the game. But still, another good showing by him on the boards, which is just his consistency on the boards is just something that probably – actually, we do talk about it. We talk about it a lot. So
we do, but it's
important.
better than I would have expected.
There's no doubt.
That was one area where I didn't know that he would be
ditto.
A traditional, he's 7'1", but will he rebound like one? Coming, he's that skilled stretch big. Maybe is more comfortable facing up than bullying around in the paint. But when he has 11 boards in the starting center on the other side, and Stephen Crowell has 0,
what in the world?
That tells you something. That's a big advantage there. Crowell is not playing good basketball as a fifth-year guy who's been in the Big Ten for a long time. But Tommy, offensively, missed some finishes around the basket, didn't shoot it great from 3. It wasn't one of his better performances. Right. He looked, and we had a text about it, was he sick or anything like that? I don't know. He did look at points, a little fatigued. Played 30 minutes last night, and it's one of those where he's been on a great run.
It's that time of year, right?
It is.
I mean, I'm watching high school
it'll come
basketball.
out and be like, yeah, he's been sick. He's missed practice. You'll hear that about somebody, and there's
no doubt.
You usually think.
I'm watching high school basketball here the last 2 games, and I'm seeing kids coughing. And while one game they look like they can jump out of the gym, the next game it looks like they can barely get a rebound. It's that time of year, and you get worn down by this weather. You get worn down with colds and such. So if that is the case, then how about Trey White stepping up? And I think that could be such a key to the consistency of this team, is if you always have that next guy do the step up. Now, that's such an obvious statement, but some teams don't have that. They don't have that next guy to step up, like Wisconsin probably would be a key part to that.
Northwestern can't do that.
No, they
can't.
There's
a lot of teams that
they can't. And yet, you win. I mean, give Northwestern or Wisconsin credit. They battled in this game, to make it, an
Yeah.
86-80 game. They were down, 4 at half, and you only outscored them 2 in the second half. So Greg Gard's squad came in, looked like a team that was 0-1 and needing a Big Ten victory, but luckily you're at home and you've got KJ and Kylan. My gosh, Kylan goes for 19 and 6 assists, and I'm like sitting here acting like he didn't even play.
I want to talk about Kylan. 19
please
points,
do.
like you said, 5 for 11, got to the line, 7 of 7 at the free throw line, 6 assists. Seemed to do what he wanted to do off the dribble too, was really operating off the bounce, getting to the lane, making good decisions, finding teammates, but also putting pressure on the basket, which is good to see. He still has yet to shoot the three at the level that he did at Arizona. I think that's going to come for him. He's getting some good looks from the corner or out top, and he's got a nice, smooth release. So he was a 37-38% three-point shooter coming into this situation at Illinois, and I think the stats probably won't look like that at the end of the year for this in particular season, but I think he'll start shooting at that level, and that'd be great. But for all the stats that I just gave out on him, defensively continues to be his biggest impact. He drew the primary assignment on Tanjay. Trey White does deserve credit for what he did on him as well, but you're talking about the second leading scorer in the Big Ten, a guy that led the country both in free throw makes and attempts going into last night. He only has 14 points on 15 shots and only attempts 2 free throws while having 4 turnovers. So Boswell was all over him, cutting off drives, not fouling him, and the guys that he has matched up against, I continue to add it to the list. Add Tanjay to Barnhizer and Boogie Fland and Mark Sears. And I've been thinking about this. I've been chewing on this, and I want to get Kyle's thoughts and yours as well. It's got me thinking here. I know we're still in early to working our way into mid-December. Where is this backcourt duo in the Big Ten?
Ooh.
Can it be the best? Can it get to the point where it's better than Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer? That's this gold standard in my opinion. And I think everybody out there would start with that because Braden Smith, preseason player of the year,
really good.
The stats he's putting up. Fletcher Lawyer offensively shooting the three really well this year. I think when you're trying to, and sometimes it's hard to look at like the baseball card stats defensively,
right,
to try to really, if you're just kind of on the outside, not watching Illinois night to night, to really judge what Kylan's doing defensively. But I had that thought, and I wonder. I think the high point is to be as good as anybody in the Big Ten as far as a duo. And obviously, we know where KJ is projected NBA-wise. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that.
I want Kyle to answer this because I guarantee
I don't know
you.
if I have a great answer.
Oh,
on
okay.
this.
Well, I guarantee you've watched more than I have on this. But, I mean, is KJ's best guard in the Big Ten right now, isn't he?
Behind Dylan Harper to me still.
Oh, okay.
Number 2.
See, there you go. I haven't
Hater.
seen Harp's. Yeah, really. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Harper's averaging 23 a game.
He's been pretty good.
He has been good.
He's been pretty good.
Never mind. I was kind of going there with the Braden Smith thing. It's almost as though you feel like you need your mouth washed out if you say that, right? To put a freshman over Braden Smith, who's done wonderful things. But would you not take KJ's stats every night with what he's doing compared? I mean, it's just amazing to me. As for a duo without – can you ask me after we do our Big Ten fantasy draft? And then I know the Big Ten's so much better. That's pathetic on my end.
It's fine.
But I think you put the duo up there that would be the one that you'd gun for. I mean,
yeah. I mean, even last
better.
night on the other side, Tanjay and Blackwell.
Yeah, they're
I know
good.
Tanjay is kind of like that big guard / wing, depending on how you categorize him. Statistically, they've put up really good numbers to this point. Obviously, Illinois' side was better.
Yes.
But even if it's KJ fully solidify himself, and it's not like, okay, we're not worried about the small sample size now. We're not 9 games in. We're 19, 25 games in. Kylan, people understand the defense is solidified as maybe the best perimeter defender in the league, and his offense might have become more consistent by then. Still, the shooting numbers to this point aren't very good on the whole.
I'm with you.
But that's kind of a thought in my head of like, could they get there? I think the answer is yes, even though it is hard when, Braden Smith, I think maybe he leads the country in assists, and Lawyer is shooting the three like that. So that's hard. But even if it is second, that says a lot.
It does.
For two newcomers.
It always amazes me, too, that somebody can play defense at the level. And I'm not just saying Kylan's the only one that does this. Braden Smith plays good defense. But to be able to play defense at the level you are and still then produce 19 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds on a night, that to me just shows you're in another level, right? And guys like Braden Smith are in that level. So it's a great point. It's a great question. It's a great study to kind of watch this season to see how that goes. And I'll tell you this, Illinois is not backing down in that battle because KJ's doing exactly what, if not more than Braden right now. And I don't know what Braden's stats are overall. I know, does he really score at a high level like KJ?
13.2 points per game, 8.8 assists per game,
That's
4.8 rebounds, shooting 42% from three.
So say those again. 13,
9, and 5 on 43% from the field, 42% from three.
And KJ's what? Didn't you rip that off early,
15,
Derek?
6, and 6. 15.4 points per game.
Okay.
49 from the floor, 44 from three.
I mean, they mirror each other. That's impressive with Braden, too.
It is,
To think
yeah.
the year KJ's having and Braden's got stats like that. Wow.
And admittedly, I sat there and I like, okay, what does the assist total look like for Braden Smith?
Yeah.
Absent Zach Edey,
Right.
and it's even higher.
I'm eating some crow for that.
I'm not saying that he wasn't going to put up good numbers as
Right.
a distributor because he's really good at that, but is he going to have to score 20 and maybe dish out 4.5 to 5 assists? But Kaufman-Wren's been a lot better
really
than
good.
a lot of people outside would have thought, and Lawyer's still shooting. I mean, he's shooting a career best 52.5% from three so far. So
Those two have stepped up. I thought the same thing with Edey. I thought more that it would be the shooting percentages would be down without Edey because he drew so many guys in on double teams to where then all of a sudden a lot of those Purdue guards like Lance Jones last year no longer is there, but Lance and Fletch and those guys would have wide open looks. And I thought that this season, without having to double team necessarily, those guys would have tougher times in terms of getting that shooting percentage as good or better. But I give Lawyer a lot of credit. I called him Fletch. That's kind of funny, like we're buddies. We're not, believe me. But it's impressive that he's done that, and when you look at Braden. So that's a great question. And like you said, I think you summed it up best. If you're in that conversation, then you know you're getting a hell of a whatever production out of KJ and Kylan.
big time. And Purdue is built to be at the top of the top early on. Like you're talking about two junior guards who played a bunch of basketball together and at this level. Kylan's played a lot of high major basketball, but it is a new scene for him. KJ's never played college basketball. You're talking about an 18-year-old and KJ, and Kylan is still only 19, but he's played obviously a lot at the high major competition level. So
True.
that's where it's really encouraging for them to be this successful on the front end of the season, where we wondered, we've used the example before. It took Io and Trent some time to learn how to play together and ultimately click and all of that, where I'm not saying that everything is as tip-top peak performance and it's going to ride out the rest of the way between Kylan and KJ, but the recent indications have been pretty positive for both of those guys. KJ has been ridiculous, and Kylan defensively, there's been no drop off. There's been he kind of got the best of it type of thing. He's just been that dude night in and night out.
Well, if Kylan can get anywhere near Ben Rickhouse defensively,
yeah.
I can't wait to hear you guys tackle this, the Brad Underwood soundbite. I'm really excited for you to do this next segment.
It's funny. It's what everybody wants to talk about the most.
It is.
Regarding Illinois basketball recently.
Is that Brad is he just like not, I about said ghosting us. I think that means like you wouldn't hear from him, right?
Gaslighting.
Gaslighting. Okay, I knew there was some phrase that probably
I still
Andrew
don't think
uses.
I fully understand what gaslighting is.
He's pouring gas on it, right? He's just trying to, he's like, I know that if I say this right now.
Saying something so much that you know isn't true that you're almost kind of tricking people into thinking it's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
And essentially he knows, look, Brad's smart. He knows sitting up there at that table answering questions from you guys ends and a 3, 4, and a 5, and he's like, I'm all in. And he's got his sunglasses on like Moneymaker, and he's just like, do you trust me on this or not? No, I don't, Brad. So I'm going all in because I've got a couple of aces here, but it's interesting.
I can see your hand, Brad. It's reflecting off your sunglasses.
That's well said. I just watched your hand for what, 180 minutes here in the last few games. Can I say something before we take a break? It was kind of a cool thing that hit me last night. So Andrew had a game down in Olney. That's a long drive. That's a couple hours from Philo. So we're down there, and at halftime, they've got kind of a cool Hall of Fame because there's some cool things that Olney has done. It's a really neat area and such. But I go out there to look at the Hall of Fame, and I forgot that Jim Turpin, who was a longtime Illinois announcer, of course, worked at DWS forever. Jim Turpin is an Olney graduate.
Is that right?
And I saw that, and I was like, oh, I forgot all about that. And then on the way home last night, I didn't get a chance to watch the game, but I'm listening to Brian Barnhart, who's from Tolono. And I started thinking to myself on the way home, I'm like, how lucky has Illinois been to have Jim Turpin, who did Illinois basketball forever, and then to even – you take it the next step with Brian Barnhart because you're not going to get anybody better than Brian when it comes to play-by-play. So for Illinois fans to have two small towns essentially represented in Olney and Tolono, I think Brian's from Tolono. I know he went to Unity. To have those two small towns essentially basically create the last two play-by-play guys for Illinois who are really good. And this isn't just a homer thing. Like Brian Barnhart would be as good as any announcer out there. And now he would argue that and say, well, there's guys that are, on the national level. I'd say no, Brian. I think you'd be just as good as them. But I think he's better than Jim Turpin. But Jim Turpin was the voice of the Illini forever. And certainly I have so many memories of Turpin calling a certain play or a certain highlight. And those are the things that kind of live on. And so I just thought of that last night. I'm like, how cool is that you have two guys from kind of small towns around Illinois that have essentially carried the play-by-play for Illinois basketball for what, the last 40 years?
Yep.
I don't even know how long, maybe longer than that with regards to Turpin. So I had to throw that out there. I thought that was really cool.
That's great. No, and another guy that's been part of those broadcasts, not as the play-by-play, but obviously Lauren Tate.
Oh, my gosh.
He's
Monticello.
Monticello, yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, man, and you don't get better than Lauren Tate, right? I mean, Jim Turpin and Brian Barnhart would sit here and say, we're not in his class. I mean, Tate just does so many things. He's the man.
He's the man.
He's the legend.
He's the man for sure.
And he just keeps going to the games, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
He's there.
Yep.
Does he always ask? He used to always ask the first question.
He takes the backseat on that now.
Okay.
He's like,
Yeah,
I've asked enough questions.
Does he
I actually haven't heard him ask a question in a long time.
I bet if he speaks, though, everybody stops.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, Lauren's asking a question. And then usually he gets ripped on by the coaches.
Brad likes to especially address him, yeah.
And Lauren just sits there and takes it. That's awesome.
I think it was maybe, a handful of years ago. He asked Brad what would his starting lineup be. And ever since then, he's like, I know Lauren wants to know what the starting lineup is. He's like saying that in June.
I love it.
And, I like to.
That's cool. I love that kind of back and forth.
Oh, it's great.
And I know he gives it to you and Jeremy and others, too. So I think that's wonderful. And Brett does the same thing. So
Yep.
Very cool.
We're very lucky.
Very lucky with Shauna Green. And
broadcast-wise, all of it.
Oh, my gosh. Brad Dancer, Mike Small, Dan Hartlib. I mean, go down the list. We've got some great coaches that are fun to visit with. So
Big time.
Very
Big
cool.
Time. 86-80 last night, State Farm Center. A late one, ultimately. But if you're watching Peacock, Noah Eagle, Robbie Hummel, I don't know if you saw the clip of that was going around on Twitter where Brad Underwood brings a Papa Del's to Robbie
I did
Hummel
see that. What was that?
Gives him some crap, and that was kind of funny. But ultimately, Illinois gets it done in the Big Ten home opener. We'll talk more about that. We'll address.
Well, wait, he can bring Robbie Hummel Papa Del's, but he can't give you guys Papa Del's?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm calling you out, Brad.
I don't know if it was Brad's decision.
Yeah.
I think if you did ask him, like, hey, would you 7-359-2255, Max Twin City Recycling text line will be back. This is The Drive.
Here's what new customers are saying about Interstate Batteries.
It's nice to see capable and helpful associates. They did a top-notch job.
They were easy to talk to and explained everything.
Service was prompt and I was a walk-in. Total service time was only like 20 minutes. I highly recommend Interstate Batteries.
Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable. How much is dependable worth? Experience them for the first time at 2504 North Mattis. Way out there, but worth the drive. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable.
Visit interstatebatteries.com.
Illinois basketball season is underway.
Single game tickets to see your Fighting Illini at State Farm Center are on sale now at fightingillini.com. Great seats are still available. Lock in your tickets for big games against Big Ten opponents before they're gone. Don't miss your chance to see the winningest team in the Big Ten Conference over the last 5 years. Be part of the atmosphere and get tickets at fightingillini.com.
Hi, it's Ellen Hook, owner of your newly remodeled Ashley. Get your home ready for the Get It Before Christmas event. We have hundreds of items in stock and ready for delivery just in time for the holidays. At Ashley, whether you need a cozy new sectional for family gatherings or the perfect dining set for Christmas dinner, plus mattresses throughout the whole store with hundreds of items in stock, we've got you covered with fast delivery. Don't miss out on these amazing deals happening now at Ashley, located at 602 West Anthony Drive, Champaign.
So when was the last time you saw a best deal guarantee?
You mean a promise that actually held up?
Right.
That some unknown online entity didn't want you to log in and download a code and then re-verify as you join some club?
Drives you nuts, I know.
And then once you purchase that set of steak knives...
Well, Dick Van Dyke Appliance World is a lot simpler. You find a verified great deal and they beat it. Just show them the deal you saw. A newspaper clipping or the online cart price will do, and then you're good.
At Dick Van Dyke Appliance World, it's one of those instances where you see a best deal guarantee and...
you get the best deal.
This is Dennis Reekin, chairman of Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. Our exclusive 10-year protection plan comes free with most appliance purchases. Whether it's a GE, Whirlpool, Frigidaire, Bosch, or any of our 30 brands, I guarantee we will beat any competitor's deal. Wow!
Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. When you buy from us, you get the whole store.
You have money laying all around your house. You just don't know it. And no, I don't mean selling your great-grandma's good china. I mean all the old metal items you don't want to use or get rid of. Don't pay someone to haul it away. Bring it into Max Twin City Recycling and get paid to have it taken off your hands. They love new customers and are more than willing to walk you through their process step by step. Come check them out at 2808 North Lincoln Avenue in Urbana.
Starting it over is what we do at Max Twin City Recycling.
This is Starla Carr with Provident Financial Group. Political news is sure to dominate the headlines in 2024, adding uncertainty to the markets. This makes a disciplined investment strategy even more critical to achieving your long-term goals. To assure your investments are aligned with your objectives, contact us today at 217-366-3456 or find us online at providentfinancialgroupllc.com.
Securities and advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.
PDR Automotive has now been serving the Champaign-Urbana area for over 50 years. To give you some perspective, 50 years ago ended the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, and it was when Secretariat won the Triple Crown. So what does that mean for you and your vehicle? Whether you need a carburetor overhauled or your new vehicle computer system diagnosed or programmed, PDR Automotive has the experienced, knowledgeable staff that can handle all your automotive needs. Online at pdrauto.com, they are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR. Sarah Champagne's Ben Quattrone on keeping his employees.
It's got to be the place to work. We have to pay the best. We have to treat people the best. Some of the guys wanted to order pizza the other day. Well, we bought 30 Papa Del's pizzas. BMW had the best month they've ever had. They said, can we have a cookout? Saturday, I cooked like...
Are you looking for a side hustle? Here's Josh from Jets talking about the benefits of doing deliveries.
When I was a delivery driver, it was amazing how much the actual amount of money I had just shot right up. It's hard to describe. You have money in your pocket every single day.
For details on joining the team, visit jetspizza.com.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Let's continue to discuss Illinois' win in the Big Ten home opener last night over Wisconsin, 86-80. Although we have the ability to look too far ahead. I don't know why you would when you got Tennessee coming to town, number one in the country. Lon said, "Who guards Cooper Flagg?"
Woo!
Kyle and I both said, "Ben Rickhouse, of course."
Oh boy, of course. Yeah, which
Just go
until
by-
last night I would have.
Just go by the grading scale.
Yeah, until last night I would have said there's no way, but I guess Torvik and what's the other
You
one?
need your highest graded defender on him.
Yeah.
Pretty clearly.
I would think so. Would think so.
Oh my gosh, did he really say this?
He did. He's doubled down. He's doubled down ultimately on Ben and his defensive prowess. I don't know where he's finding it. Let's get the clip from Brad last night, react to it. We can talk about Ben had another kind of tough night, didn't shoot it all that great. There's a lot of discussion around his play and what his role should be. I have some thoughts, but let's get Brad's first.
Okay. Talking about Ben and this or that, Ben's been our highest graded defender because you guys have no idea what we're trying to do. And he's been our highest graded defender in 6 of our first 7 games. And he does a great job there.
On a serious note, I think that Merez Johnson is probably, as of right now, I would peg him as Cooper Flagg, the best matchup.
Yes.
In terms of athleticism, size, and all of that.
Makes sense.
But on the Ben Humrickhouse note, there's, how do I say this and not get canceled from the radio?
I have a theory.
I don't believe you. I said it last night on the podcast. It's the Ron Burgundy. I don't believe you, Giff. Like I don't believe you. I didn't respond to that to Brad in the press conference. I just don't believe it. I watched it live and rewatched the Northwestern game. There is no way he was the highest graded defender in that game.
No.
We've waxed poetic about how good Kylan's been. He has to be your highest graded defender throughout. So I get Brad is pining for his guy, supporting his guy, trying to be publicly overly positive to extinguish some of these fires. I don't know that he's maybe doing that because I think he's just making more people annoyed with come on, Brad, that can't be real.
Right.
There is a conversation to be had about role and who Ben's going to become for this team and different opinions on that. And I'm not out on Ben Humrickhouse personally.
No.
I still think I agree with Brad when he says. Another thing that he mentioned last night was you're going to see it's coming. He's going to make 5, 6, 7 threes in a game, and I fully buy that.
Arkansas, he was good.
Yeah. 3 for 5 from deep, hits the first 3 of the game.
Yep.
I think he's going to rattle off 5 threes in a game, and we may not be far from it. But
honestly, I'd rather hear from Kyle, but I'll throw my 2 cents in as a guy that, has watched a lot of basketball. The thing that got me was him saying,
middle school coach, Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm still waiting for the banner and all that. I don't know when that arrives. They said it'd be on the way. So the key to that statement is by the way we play, right? Is that what he said? Like, you guys, he's number one because of the way we play or something to that
he
sense.
says you guys have no idea what we're trying to do.
That's what it is. So my thought to this is if I were Brad Underwood, I would, unless it's like a guard that literally can't shoot, I don't think you can put Ben on some guard. But what I'm trying to do, and I've seen this plenty of times in both college basketball and high school, is you take a defender that isn't that great individually or on the perimeter like Ben, and you put him on the worst offensive player on the other team and allow him to do a few other things, like, for instance, clog the lane on occasion, maybe take away a pass on occasion because he does have the length. There are a couple of little things that I see that maybe Brad is trying to explain there in the sense that, hey, we can let Ben kind of be that free safety, if you will, a little bit to both help out defensively on the inside, help out a little bit in the passing lane, maybe cut off a guy that beats a guy, and helps on a double team on a wing, something like that. But if you're going to sit there and tell me that individually that he rates as well as anybody on this team, and I don't know that you constitute rebounding with defense, but to me, if you've got a guy that's getting you 1 rebound a game, that I'm not going to sit there then and turn the page and say, well, I bet he's your best defender. No, I'm not going to do that. So, look, Brad knows what he's doing. Of course, he says he never listens to you guys or reads what you say, but obviously he does. And last night, this quote was the perfect reason as to why he does. Come on, he hears the talk that, boy, Ben's really getting shredded right now by all the fans and the media in the sense that he's just not playing defense. I mean, he gets that. He understands that. So I'm with you. Where's the Ron Burgundy meme? I don't agree with you at all. So, Kyle, I'll let you go from there.
I don't know much more to add other than I need some type of explanation. I texted Pipe. I need Derek Piper's next article to be a feature story on the grading system inside Illinois basketball defensively that has Benham Rickhouse ahead of Kylan Boswell defensively.
Amen.
I don't understand it. I totally agree with you that
hell ahead of Ivisic.
Yeah, or ahead of what Trey White did last night.
Morez
he was fantastic.
Defended
Morez,
really well to this point.
I think a more believable statement would be he's been our worst graded defender by a lot.
Right.
But I agree with you that I still think he's going to make an impact. I'm not worried necessarily long term about what he is. He's a shooter. He's a guy they brought in to make shots. The shooting slump he's in, I don't have any concerns about. I just don't get the making something up to prop him up. I totally get back in your guy. I can understand maybe pushing back a little bit, like, well, everybody's blowing like he's been the worst defender ever. Actually, I think he's done this, and this well.
Right.
But we all can see. I just don't get it. I really don't.
And Pipes, before you go, which I want you to, I'm with you guys because I didn't get to add to this. I think Illinois, that you would be elite offensively like you were last year. I think that's how Brad kind of organized the squad. And I think for that to be, I just used Brad's word, to be elite, I think you've got to have a guy like Benham Rickhouse who's out there hitting threes, because when he does, then that is just a whole nother dagger that somebody has to stop. And teams, I mean, when he goes 1 for 9 against Northwestern, if he's 3 for 9, you win that game, right? I totally think that Illinois could be at its best when Ben's out there, but I'm talking offensively.
Right. For sure. And I think that Brad has shown that he's willing to lean in the offensive direction. Feels like the highest upside for his squad is if they are an elite offensive team. And when Ben is out there, even as he's struggling right now, if you're Tennessee, you're not going to say, all right, Ben's been really cold from 3. We're going to leave him open.
Right.
Like, that would be asking for trouble if you did that. Teams are going to try to get out to him on the 3-point line. And obviously when he gets going, he's just that weapon where you can't help off of him. It gives room for KJ and Kylan to go into the paint. It's different than Trey, even though Trey pops up and makes a couple last night. He doesn't have the full body of work necessarily in terms of he's a knockdown 3-point shooter. Obviously, Will Riley can make shots. I understand if there's somebody out there that says, why not, especially after the night that Trey had, why not play Will Riley and Trey as your 3 and 4 with Ivisic more? There's an argument to be made for that.
I agree.
I think that there is still more to learn about how Morez and Tommy can play together, like Morez at the 4, Tommy at the 5 type of dynamic. But we've mentioned before, we talked about it yesterday, it is the floor spacing, it is the offense that Brad's concerned about and wants more of that 5-out look and all of that Ben can help provide. So I know that Bill asked, why would his shooting improve during the conference season? That seems unlikely. The answer I would give is that we've seen transfers come in and struggle to play up to their level.
That is true.
I mean, Alfonso Plummer's first handful of games, he shot the 3 terribly. Yes, by late November, he was making 6 or 7 in a game. And when Arizona came to town for that marquee home non-conference game, he jumped up and made, I don't know what it was.
Shoot the arrow.
Yeah, he was shooting a lot of arrows off. But like Jacob Grandison, who comes from a lower level at Holy Cross, was barely playable the first couple months and then ultimately becomes a really key role player. And I know some would say, well, Ben looks unplayable right now. The rebounding has not been good. He got beat. Was it once or twice on free throw blockouts? It was twice. Free throw blockouts, gave up the offensive rebound, fouled. That's bad.
That is bad.
And then in addition to, it wasn't really like he was isolated last night and getting attacked. That was the Northwestern game. But I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you that he's played well. And I definitely don't believe the defensive rating stuff.
No.
But I do think that riding with him is an understandable method because of what he will likely do offensively. And they drew up plays for him to try to get shots last night. The first play of the game was for him. Now he chucked it on the other side of the backboard and missed it. and then he took a corner three that was contested, and it just kind of looked like I'm just going to shoot this regardless. He's in his head right now.
I agree.
And I think
totally.
I think that's why Brad is so opposite the other way against all the criticism, is because he knows his guy's fighting it right now and needs the support.
Probably the best point. I mean, you've brought up 100 good points, but that might be the best point right there.